I'm going to Plymouth. Yeah.
You ready? Yes, ma'am. Okay. Thank you. Welcome to the Wareham Conservation Commission meeting of Wednesday, November 20th, 2019. Mr. Baptiste, roll call, please.
Okay, members present, Lisa Hurd, Mary Taggart, David Hall, myself, Ken Baptiste, Rob Lassen, Chair Sandy Slavin, and Agent David Pichette.
Thank you. We have some continued hearings. The Buzzards Bay Coalition has asked for a continuance until December 4th.
So moved.
I have a motion.
Second.
Oh, is there anybody here for that Buzzards Bay Coalition that floats off of Deacon's property? No, I don't see anyone. So I have a motion to continue until December 4th.
Second.
I heard a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, it's continued. The next continued one was William Evans Big Block Trust, wants a continuation until September 4th.
So moved.
December 4th.
So moved.
I have a motion.
Second.
Second. Is there anybody here for that project? None. So we have opposed, 4, opposed, against, I'll get it right, 4, against, abstained. Was continued until December 4th. The next continued hearing was Homestead Realty Trust. Anybody here for that? Come forward and identify yourselves, please, for the record.
Good evening, Brad Bertolo, JC Engineering.
Thank you.
This project site is at 10 Jordan Road, and this application is filed in response to an enforcement order that was issued for unpermitted clearing work and alteration of land within the buffer zone to wetlands at this site. The project involves remediation work to address the violations and also proposes some additional work, which includes the construction of a basketball court, dog kennel area, a stormwater structure, and fencing within the buffer zone to the wetland. Plantings are proposed from the wetland to 30 feet out from the wetland to replace vegetation that was cut in this area. The replanting area should be 50 feet out, however, since there was a 50-foot no activity zone associated with this subdivision. The stormwater structure that's proposed to handle the runoff from the extended roadway area at the end of the cul-de-sac also may be within the 50-foot no activity zone, but there's no wetland really clearly depicted on that portion of the plan, so I would ask for that information to be addressed. There's a proposed fence on the southerly property line that would go right to the edge of the wetland. Again, that's all within the 50-foot no activity zone and really should not be allowed. So some of these issues I've already discussed with the engineer, and they are going to be in the process of making some plan revisions. So at this point, I would recommend a continuance of the hearing till the next meeting for those revisions to be addressed.
Is there any questions on the board? So we're talking, planting has to be outside of the 50-foot. You want the area around the turnaround?
Within the 50-foot.
Within,
Has to be, to include the 50-foot area.
inside the 50-foot. I am not hearing well tonight. I apologize. I
All right.
woke up from a nap later than I had expected, so, you know, hey. The fence that goes to the edge of the wetland should not be within the 50-foot, should not be allowed within the 50-foot. You had an issue over the turnaround from the road? Yep. Jordan? Yep. Okay. The turnaround at the end of Jordan Road. And was there something else? We have a lot of sand that was placed into the pond that's going to be removed, correct?
Yes.
Yes, correct.
I want a beach too, so I'm going to dump sand on the river. Yeah, sorry, editorial. Would you like to add something to this?
No, I just thought it would be best for the commission to at least have a chance to review the plans. The intention is the homeowner wants to attend, but he couldn't attend this evening, so we were going to request a continuance anyways, but we would like to at least hear any comments from the agent. We did speak with him earlier today, so we knew some of his concerns, but if there were any other concerns from the commission, we'd be more than happy to take those notes and bring them in front of the owner.
If I recall, this is the site in which they trimmed every one of their trees from 6 feet down to the ground and removed all the brush between their house and the riverfront, right? They absolutely, I want my vista pruning and I'm going to clear everything, if I
Yes.
recall the site. Okay. So, any questions on the board for this? It might be worth a trip if somebody has a chance to go out to see it. It's down the street from the municipal maintenance.
On the left?
Going away, yes, going away, Jordan, all the way down to the end to the riverfront. Any questions on the board? Anybody in the audience that was here for this particular project? I'm seeing none. I'll make a request that someone makes a motion that we continue this until December 4th. Is that good for you?
Yes.
So moved. I have a motion. I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained. It is continued until December 4.
This is a revised plan, by the way. Another one.
This is old. Thank you. Paperwork coming back for that one? Okay. The next hearing, a continued hearing, is Ken Nelligan. Want to come forward and, anybody here for this particular project?
I gotta sit out.
Okay. Make a note that Rob has left the meeting.
Hello, my name's Ken Nelligan. My wife and I live at 156 Cromisa Road, and we also own 156 Cromisa Road off, or back.
Thank you. This has been before us and has been continued.
This is a new plan.
Is that different than what I saw this morning?
No.
Okay, here. A new plan. Wow,
Anybody else need it?
I got one. They can share them down. Your first public hearing was December 2018. Just a comment, I'm saying,
Yes.
my folder got awful big. Okay, Mr. Bichette will speak to the project and the changes that were submitted.
So again, this project site is at 156 Cremisa Road, and the project involves the construction of a pier over a salt marsh within land under the ocean and within a coastal flood zone. Vista pruning is also proposed. This is within the buffer zone to the marsh and within the flood zone. A 4 by 125-foot dock with a 4 by 10-foot T at the end is proposed over the marsh into Cedar Island Creek. The original plan that was submitted was a hand-drawn sketch and did not show accurate water depths at the end of the pier or design details for the pier. So we now have an engineered plan that's been submitted for the proposed structure. The pier would be elevated above the marsh and would have 6 by 6 inch pilings to support it. The plan shows that there would be, that there would not be 2 feet of water at the end of the structure at low tide. So that's an issue. The project also proposes an 8 by 8 foot deck platform on the landward side of the structure. And this is something that really shouldn't be allowed, as it is not really part of the dock and is within the wetland or within the 30-foot no activity zone to the wetland. And I did speak to Mr. Nelligan about that already. The 4 by 10 foot T at the end of the structure is also not consistent with the dock size requirements. So that should be adjusted as well. The plan shows that the marsh to be spanned with the structure is 74.3 feet. The max allowed under the bylaw is 75 feet. So that's obviously pretty close. I also had a question as to whether or not this new plan has been submitted to the Mass Division of Marine Fisheries for their review, since they probably have not seen this. Do you know if that's happened or not?
No, I haven't submitted it. I didn't
Okay.
think it was substantially different than what I submitted originally to them. I did submit, what I submitted as part of the NOI, I submitted to them, and they wrote a letter back.
Right, but I think one of their comments was that it wasn't an accurate or detailed plan, and it should be from an engineer. I think that was part of the gist of their comments. So you really do need to submit this to them to get their comments on it now that we have accurate information.
Okay.
Also proposed as part of this project is the removal of vegetation on the site, including trees and saplings. A lot of this work is within the 30-foot no activity zone. The applicant has a forest management plan which recommends removal of some of this vegetation, primarily white pine. But however, this is again not really consistent with the town's wetland bylaw in terms of removal of vegetation within the 30-foot to wetlands. There are some trees proposed to be removed which are outside of the 30-foot no activity zone, which I think is fine for those to be removed. So again, any vegetation management, in my opinion, should be limited to being outside the 30-foot no activity zone. So the other minor thing was there was some plans to place some wood chips on an existing path in the buffer zone and partially in the wetland. So at this point, I would recommend a continuance to make sure we get comments from Mass Division of Marine Fisheries. But overall, it's my opinion that the pier really should not be approved because it does not meet certain requirements of our wetland bylaw. But I still would also like to make sure we get comments from Division of Marine Fisheries before any final decision. So that's what I have.
Thank you. Any comments you'd like to add to that, please?
Yes. One of the things that the bylaw does state is that dock construction is typically the least environmentally destructive way of crossing a marsh, and that's why we would like to install a dock. We would like to utilize kayaks to enjoy the environment there, Cedar Creek, and rather than going across the marsh to launch them, I believe it would be in the interest of what the bylaw was designed to promote, to let us go over the marsh and over the bank of Cedar Creek in order to launch the kayaks. And that's really what we're proposing to do in that sense. The dock it would be what the state defines as a small dock, fewer than 600 square feet below mean water shoreline. One of the things that the Chapter 1, according to the state's website, was designed to do is to protect the homeowner's right to access his or her property from the water. And the state regulations provide for an expedited process in order to get a small dock approved. And if the commission were to approve this, that's the process that we would follow. The deck is designed to help bring the kayaks up to the level of the dock. The dock has to be 4 feet high at its beginning point because of the terrain. The terrain is essentially level. And being able to put them up on the platform and then go take a step up to the platform and a couple of steps up to the dock would facilitate our bringing the kayaks up and bringing them across the marsh via the dock. There was an eelgrass survey done, and there was no eelgrass found in the vicinity. I don't quite understand the comment, Mr. Pichette, about the T not complying with the dock. Is it because the T is too short?
No, it's really because the max width of the dock can only be 4 feet. So when you go out to the end, you either have to end the pier at a 4-foot width or have a ramp that goes down to a float if that's the design. But if you're just going to end it, you can't just have some sort of a space out there that's additional area.
Well, it's only 4 feet wide. If it took a right angle at the end of the dock so that it was an L rather than a T, would that conform to the bylaws?
No, because it has to be straight. You can't have docks at L and change direction and all that. They have to be in a linear direction.
Okay, I didn't see that in the bylaws, but we can accommodate that. There will be no float. We propose to have a ladder at the end of the dock. And the only reason it's going out as far as it does, it goes out 30 feet. Let's see, it extends 60 feet beyond the mean high water mark, and it would extend beyond the edge of the marsh into Cedar Creek, only 30 feet. And the reason it goes out that far is because there's a rock that is sticks up above the bottom of the ocean there. And I didn't want anybody jumping off the dock and hurting themselves on that rock. So we really just want to get over the bank. Now, what was it about the 2 feet depth of water that you were referring to, Mr. Pichette?
You really have to have 2 feet of water at low tide to accommodate a dock. That's part of what is in the bylaw. And so, again, that's designed for making sure that there's sufficient water for anything that might be either resting on the dock or tied to it, so that you have adequate water depth at low tide and everything's not just sitting in the mud.
Well, I know there's a section in the bylaws that talks about 2 feet of water under the float. Mm-hmm. But we're not having a float.
Yeah, but, you have something that's going to be utilized at the end of that. So if you have no water at low tide, how are you gonna function there?
Well, the kayaks are launched now from the banks, and we have the same issue with the water, high tide, low tide. This would actually extend our ability to go out, launch the kayaks, and extend the time out on the water by a couple of hours before and after high tide. So you'd want to launch them in adequate water, and you want to get back in adequate water and bring them in. That's the whole point of it. And that's a better alternative in my mind than traipsing through the marsh and the bank and going up and down the bank each time you want to launch the kayak. The kayaks are still going to be launched, but this actually preserves the bank and the marsh. That's how I see it.
Right. No, I understand that, and I can appreciate that, but I think one of the issues, too, that the commission has to be conscious of when we're reviewing any of these is this is your proposed use of it. You could get this thing permitted and then in 2 years sell it to somebody else, and they could want to drive a motorboat up to it. So, we have to regard anything that we're reviewing in terms of what the bylaw requires, not just for your own use, but what potentially could happen down the road once it's there. So, again, I kind of appreciate your scenario and why you want to do this, but I'm trying to just point out to the commission what the bylaw asks for and trying to make sure that we try to adhere to that.
Well, in the first place, large motorboats don't have access to that part of Cedar Creek in the first place. So
It doesn't need to be large. It could even be a small skiff with a motor. That could still go right up there with no problem.
It could. Well, what if we were to extend the dock 15 feet to bring it out to a deeper water? I mean, if that's what you want us to do, we could do that.
Well,
Please, no comments?
right, if you look at the plan, the water doesn't get any deeper. That's why we require detailed plans which show water depths and so forth. And if you look at the plan, the water does not get any deeper as you go out. So that's the dilemma you have with that particular water body. It just doesn't get any deeper.
It does get a little deeper. There is a provision in the bylaw that talks about elevated boardwalks. Where is that? Oh. I mean, the other thing I wanted to say about, well, I mean, you could put a restriction on it saying that people can't use it for motorboats. On page 19 of the bylaws, there's an exception for elevated boardwalks. And I was wondering if we brought the dock back to the edge of the marsh and it qualified as an elevated boardwalk, if that would be satisfactory to the commission. From day one, I mean, the reason it's been a year, one reason it's been a year is because when I first came here, I was trying to get some feedback. And what I want to do is I want to try to work together if we can to figure out, you know, an acceptable solution. It's on page 19 of the bylaws, the exception. I suspect that would still have to be permitted because it would go below, past the, I mean, the Chapter 91 permit, because it would probably go, it would go below the mean high water mark.
Can you show me where you're looking at on that?
Yeah. Page 19.
Yeah, so that's in a different part of the bylaw, which has to do with exemptions for the 30-foot no activity zone. That's not really part of the dock and pier standards for the water depth. So that's a different situation.
Normally.
Talk about on the edge of marsh. Not over into Cedar Creek.
That might be one of the exceptions where you can.
We are going to continue this, right? So you have a chance to look into it and comment on it at the next meeting?
Sure.
Is that possible?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Give David a chance to look
Yeah.
at that.
Yeah.
Anybody questions? We're going to continue, I'll make a recommendation, we continue this until December 4th, but does anybody have any questions now? Anybody in the audience that wants to speak to or for or against this project, come forward and identify yourselves for the record.
Hello. My name is Kevin Lynch. I live on 60 Island Road in Wareham, and I represent the Cremisa Park Improvement Association, which is the neighborhood adjacent to the proposed dock. We've been here a few times, and I think we presented documentation. I think you have that documentation. About our concerns, some are wildlife concerns, some are the limited space there. If a dock were to extend out that deep, it would impair people going in and out of there. You can go in and out of there at high tide, but at low tide, it's just mud down there, if you're familiar with the area. And I don't want to go on all the details. I mean, we've already plowed that ground. We've already expressed our concerns with regard to this project. And I just want to say that we're here and you know, we'd be willing to come back and discuss it further. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else who'd like to comment? I'm seeing none. I'll take a motion to continue the hearing until December 4th.
So moved.
I have a motion. I heard a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained. We'll see you at the next meeting.
Thank you.
And let the record know, Mr. Lassen has returned at 7:26. I just wanted the record to say he's come back. So, Alyssa, can you read the next hearing while they're clearing
Sure.
the room? Thank you.
Notice of public hearing. Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protected Bylaw, Division 6, a public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass., on Wednesday, November 20th, 2019, 7:15 p.m. On the request for determination of applicability for GS Design Group, Inc., care of JC Engineering, Inc., 2854 Cranberry Highway, East Wareham, Massachusetts, 02538, to raise 2 dwellings and construct a new dwelling located on Assessor's Map lots 9A and 9B, 56 West Central Ave and 4 Second Street, Onset, Massachusetts.
Thank you. Please identify yourself for the record.
Good evening, Brad Bertolo, JC Engineering.
Thank you. I'm going to pass out the plans. And Mr. Bichette will read to the project.
Just waiting for him to. This project site is at 56 West Central Ave in Onset, and the project involves the demolition of 2 dwellings and the reconstruction of 1 new dwelling at this location, which is within a coastal flood zone. There are currently 2 dwellings on this lot, which are to be removed, and a new 33 by 36-foot dwelling is proposed in the same general area, and this is in flood zone VE elevation 22. The new dwelling would be on concrete pilings. A 10 by 15-foot deck is also proposed, and there's also a 1,000-gallon leaching pit proposed to handle runoff from the project. The work is not in the buffer zone to any other resource areas. There is some minor grading shown on the plan, but basically it's a tear down and reconstruct in the same general area. I would recommend the approval of the project with a negative determination number 2.
Brad, would you like to add anything?
No, that basically covers the project.
Are they old buildings?
Are they old?
Need historic commission to demo?
I could look into that. but-
75 years or older, I believe, is the limit.
Yeah, I'm not sure the age on them, but
Okay,
I can-
just asking. Any questions? Anything else? Nothing? We're taking down 2 and putting up a 33 by 36 and a deck? Any questions? I'll start it with you.
Looks like a very similar footprint.
The 2 homes.
Well,
Yeah.
the center obviously now has a house in it, but the outside parameters seem to
Are
be.
they going to build up to the whole length, the whole dimension of their 2,
Yeah, it's
of the
not-
lot? I didn't look at the,
they're bringing in the dimensions on most of the sides, because in most sides, they're very close to the property line, so.
yeah. Are they going to give themselves some parking?
Yeah, we're proposing a drive under.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. Other questions on the board?
Nope.
Is there anybody here for this project? I'm seeing none.
Motion
I'll take a
closed.
motion. I have a motion to close the hearing. I have a second. The hearing is closed.
Motion for a -2?
I have a motion for a -2.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained? You have your project. Please see Mr. Bichette before you start any work.
Thank you.
Oh, we finally got an okay on one. Next one, please.
Just 1 second. Notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protective Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held in Room 320 Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Massachusetts, on Wednesday, November 20th, 2019, at 7:15 p.m. On the request for determination of applicability for Mark and Juanita Howland, 241 Blackmore Pond Road, West Wareham, Mass. 02576, to cut down trees on Assessor's Map 68, Lot 1009A, 241 Blackmore Pond Road, Wareham, Mass.
Thank you. Anybody here for the, please come forward and identify yourself.
Mark Howland.
Okay. Thank you. Do you have green cards?
No.
Do you have your green cards, your abutter notifications?
I don't think so.
You send out notices to your butters?
I don't know. My wife was handling most of this.
Okay.
But I don't know if it makes any difference, but I know our abutters, and
No, we have to have documentation that they've been formally notified of the public hearing.
Yeah, I'm sure that she probably did do it, because the first page of the application is the abutter notification letter. So
okay.
we just need the proof, though. So we can discuss it tonight, but we're going to have to continue it until we get that information.
And how would we get you that information?
You would return, these would have been sent by certified mail, so you would give us the return receipts from that, or the proof that you mailed them out. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Pichette will speak to the project.
The project site is at 241 Blackmore Pond Road, and this request is to cut down 4 pine trees that exist in the back of the house. They are right on the edge of the originally approved limit of work for the project. The original project, when it was approved, required that no further cutting be done beyond the limit of work that was approved. These are kind of right on the line, so that's why they're here to discuss this with the board. Since they are right on the line, it's a judgment call for the commission. I think they are getting larger, and the owner's concerned of the potential for them falling on the house, so that's why this application has been submitted.
Did you pass out copies for people?
I don't know if I did. Here you go.
Did you get anything? No, sorry. Oh,
We started talking about abutter notifications, and I
you-
forgot about it.
There's pictures in the back with X's where the trees are, and pictures of the trees in the back of the document. We did visit the site,
Finger to it.
so anything else you'd like to add?
Nope.
Mark, anything you'd like to add to that?
I don't think so.
Just that they're taller, and they'll come down on the house.
Well, along those lines, my brother and sister-in-law are both lifelong insurance agents, and completely unprompted by us, they visited this summer, they looked out the window at the trees, and they said, have you thought
It's a
about
risk.
taking these down? Because your insurance agent would tell you you really should.
Yes,
Are they white pine?
yes. They are substantial white pines. I would say they're probably 60 to 70 years old. That gives you an idea of the height. About 60 to 70, I don't think they're much older than that. I can put my arms around them, so
Yeah, so they may not even be that old, but yeah.
they grew.
Mhm.
Well, any questions on the board? But we're going to have to continue it until we have the butter notification cards. Is there anybody here in the audience who came to talk for or against this project? I'm seeing none, so I will ask you to return on December 4th with your green cards, and we can finish this at the time.
We're going to be out of town on December 4th.
Okay, anybody can represent you? What's the next
The
meeting after
next
that?
meeting is the 18th of December.
I think we should be around then.
Okay,
So again, what you need to see, you need evidence that we that the abutters were notified, but what would be sufficient evidence? A receipt for certified mail?
Do
Right.
you have a green card that came in the last hearing? Do you know what a green card looks like, a certification card?
I do not.
So you send out registered letters, you indicate that you want to return, that it's been received, and that's what we're looking for, the green cards, acknowledging receipt, or the receipt from the mailroom that you mailed it out and it hasn't been picked up, which is that.
Okay, and just to clarify, because I want to make sure, and again, my wife may have done this, and I may be unaware of that. By abutters, and I believe you came, I know you came to the house. How many people are we talking about? Who are we
Just
talking
the
about?
direct property owners on either side of your house, not across the street, just either side of your property.
And you can take your address to the assessor's office, and they'll give you the list of abutters, correct?
Yes.
Right.
So really only two people, one on each side.
It's whatever lots touch your lot. So there could be more than two. I don't know that until you look at the assessor's map, and you have to notify them even if there's not a house there. If it's just vacant land, it's still a property owner that you would have to notify. So whatever the assessors show as your abutters, that's who you have to send this to by certified mail.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right? Yep, thank you.
Oh, did we take a vote to,
Continue to the 18th.
I need a motion, I have a motion to continue
Second.
until December 18th. I heard a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. See you on the 18th.
Okay, thank you.
If you have any questions, please see Mr. Pichette when you speak to your wife as to what was done, okay?
Okay, next.
Okay.
Notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protected Bylaws, Division 6. Public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass., on Wednesday, November 20th, 2019, at 7:15 p.m., on the request for determination of applicability for William McLean, 228 Lumber Street, Hopkinton, Mass. 01748, to upgrade a septic system located on Assessor's Map 18, Lot 1008B, 98 Great Neck Road, Wareham, Massachusetts.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please have a seat and tell us your name for the record, please.
William McLean.
Thank you. Mr. Pichette will read to the project.
This project site is at 98 Great Neck Road, and the project involves upgrading a septic system within a coastal flood zone. An existing septic system is to be upgraded with a new Title V system in this location within coastal flood zone AE elevation 15. The work is outside the buffer zone to any other resource areas. This project had been started, but then stopped because there were some issues in terms of where the leach field was located. That has been corrected now, and it was also learned that the applicant had to file with the commission also, and which is why he's here currently. So, again, I would recommend the approval of the project with a negative determination number 2 to allow the project to proceed.
Trust him.
Anything you'd like to add to the comments?
Oh, that's fine.
No question?
Questions?
No.
Where is 98? Is it down by Crooked River?
It's just past Crooked River heading,
Oh, I
It's a
saw-
very old house. I'm renovating it.
Oh, okay.
Yep. I'm not tearing it down.
I thought I saw construction there when I drove by
Yeah,
a couple months ago, and I said,
It's gonna take a lot of work. 1734, I think.
Wow.
yes, there's 3 houses right there together that were all fairly old and, yeah. Caterburgers?
I bought it from Mrs. Green.
Okay, sorry. Anybody here that would like to speak to or for this project? Any questions on the board? Fine? Okay. I would take a motion to close the hearing. I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. The hearing is closed. Next step, please.
Motion for a -2?
I have a motion for a -2.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye. Thank you very much.
Before you do much more, see Dave for the permits.
I'm just working on the house now.
You're inside now.
I'm inside, yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass., on Wednesday, November 20th, 2019, at 7:15 p.m. on the request for determination of applicability for Paul Callanan, 10 Kingwood Street, Wareham, Massachusetts, 02571, to construct a deck on Assessor's Map 38, lots 527 and 528, 10 Kingwood Street, Wareham, Massachusetts.
Thank you. Please identify yourself for the record.
My name is Paul Callanan.
Thank you. Mr. Burchett will read to the project.
The project site is at 10 Kingwood Street, and this is in the Parkwood area. The project involves the construction of a 12 by 18-foot deck in the buffer zone to salt marsh and coastal bank. The deck would be approximately 45 feet to the edge of the coastal bank and would be supported on sonotube footings. The site is relatively flat and there's no significant grade changes proposed for the project. So I would recommend the approval of the project with a negative determination number 2.
Paul, is there anything you'd like to add to his comments?
No. All set.
Questions on the board?
No.
Nope.
How far does he go, how close are you to the property line behind you with this deck?
His property line is the riverbank, is the water bank.
No, all right, okay.
And we
there's
said
like
that we
5.
were 45 feet to the coastal bank
Right.
Yeah,
from the edge of the new deck. Okay.
and the deck is,
Is there anybody here who would like to speak for or against this project? I'm seeing none.
Move to close?
I have a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, the hearing is closed.
Move to grant with a
Aye.
-2?
I have a motion to grant a -2.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained, is granted. Before you start the work, see Mr. Pichette for all the proper paperwork,
Okay.
but you got it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protective Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Wareham Marion Road, Wareham, Massachusetts, on Wednesday, November 20th, 2019, at 7:15 p.m. on the notice of intent for Cape Cod's Maple Park Campground, care of GAF Engineering, Inc., 266 Main Street, Wareham, Massachusetts, 02571, to install a 2,000-gallon concrete holding tank dump station, a 24-inch concrete dump station with water service and associated signage located on Assessor's Map 127, Lot 1,000, 290 Glen Charlie Road, East Wareham, Mass.
Thank you. Please identify yourself for the record.
Bill Madden from GAF Engineering here on behalf of Maple Park Campground.
Thank you. Mr. Pichette will read to the project.
So again, the project is at the Maple Park Campground, and the project involves the installation of a 2,000-gallon holding tank within the buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland. The tank would be outside the 50-foot no-activity zone to the wetland, which is cranberry bog. The tank would be a tight tank to be used as a dump station holding tank for campers. An existing leach pit that is there in the same general area would be removed and disposed of. Silt fence would be installed around the work area as shown on the plan. Groundwater may be encountered during the installation of this project, so I would recommend conditions for dewatering. We did get a DEP file number for this project, so I would recommend the approval of the project with the standard conditions and the additional conditions for dewatering.
Bill, anything to add?
No, I don't.
Any questions on the board?
None.
No.
So this will allow them to bring their campers and pump out?
Yes, like RVs and a lot of tent campers that might have porta potties,
Potties.
things of that nature, they have this disposal site.
Curiosity, what do they do now?
They have a smaller
they-
pit down there now, and we've decided to install a larger tank
Yep.
at that location.
Okay, so you're rid of the old one.
Was the old one a tight tank?
No,
I didn't think so, because you had to remove and dispose your leaching field. So this is better,
yes,
but pricier.
exactly. It'll have monitoring floats inside the tank that are going to be transmitted back to the office.
So they know when they get it full,
So when it gets like 2/3 full, 3/4 really, and
come pump me out.
yes.
Well, we do it for boats in the water. There's no reason why we can't do it for campers.
Yeah, and it's basically sized at about 5 times the daily flow.
Anybody here in the audience that'd like to speak for or against this project? I'm seeing none.
Motion to close?
I have a motion to close the hearing, and I heard a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, the hearing is closed.
Motion to grant
I have a motion to grant,
standard condition and added dewatering
okay.
during the installation.
Second. I have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. You're done.
Thank you.
See Mr. Bichette before you start the work.
Notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6. The public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass., on Wednesday, November 20th, 2019, at 7:15 p.m. on the notice of intent for John Cornish Stonebridge Marina LLC, care of GAF Engineering, Inc., 266 Main Street, Wareham,
Things are
Mass.
smaller.
02571.
Same thing, just
To
smaller.
install a vinyl sheet pile bulkhead located on Assessor's Map 1, Lot 1014, 5 East Boulevard, Onset, Mass.
Oh, I got two here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good, next one.
Got the next one. We got the green cards. Please identify yourself for the record.
I'm Bill Madden from GAF Engineering, here on behalf of Stonebridge Marina.
John Cornish, owner of Stonebridge Marina.
Hi, John. Okay, Mr. Bichette will read to the project.
So the project is at 5 East Boulevard at the Stonebridge Marina, and the project involves repairs to an existing bulkhead along a coastal bank, within land under the ocean, and within a coastal flood zone. It's proposed to drive vinyl sheet piles in front of the existing wooden bulkhead for a length of approximately 390 feet. Sheet piles would be driven in front of the existing wooden bulkhead, and then helical screw anchors would be driven back into the bank to anchor the sheet pile bulkhead in place. Sand would be placed in the void space between the existing retaining wall and the new vinyl sheets. Work to drive the sheet piles should primarily be done from the upland side of the site where practical, but there may need to be some work done from a floating barge or a boat. We did get comments from the Mass Division of Marine Fisheries on this project, and they asked that the footprint of the wall be maintained as it is to the extent practicable, that work be done from the upland side of the site, and that proper erosion control be used at the site where needed. We did get a DEP file number for the project also. So I would recommend the issuance of the order of conditions with the standard conditions and the added conditions that the new bulkhead be placed as close to the existing bulkhead as possible, so as not to encroach out into the water body. And also that clean sand be used to fill the void space between the two walls.
I can't write fast enough. Anything you would like to add?
No, it's going to be a little tricky working on that slope by East Boulevard. So we really have to investigate that whole issue of trying to do as much work as we can from the upland. The area in the parking lot, that shouldn't present a problem where it's a nice flat surface, but the slope of that embankment might involve the need to access the water to drive the sheets and to install the helical anchors in the face of the bulkhead. So it has a couple little tricky pieces to it, but it's relatively straightforward, very similar to what we did at Bessie Park when that bulkhead was installed.
Let's hope you put it all the way down and not stop at a stone, a rock.
Well, in this particular case, there are a few concrete blocks that have been placed in the front of that wooden bulkhead, and I don't know the reason why. I think it's perhaps because they didn't have an opportunity to drive those wood sheets to any significant depth. So to keep those from pushing out at the toe, I think those blocks are placed there. So that's one of the tricky parts is, they're pretty massive and weigh quite a bit. So how we're going to get those out of there and move them out of place is the difficult thing. But we should be able to do it. There's enough equipment and manpower around to get those things done. I know that there was some discussion as to try to keep it as close to the face of the existing as we can, but there are a series of 12-inch diameter piles on the exterior face of that bulkhead. So, what we think we'll probably do is at least get in there and see if, perhaps we can work and pull those out before we drive the sheets and perhaps do it in sections. But we don't want to jeopardize the stability of that bank by trying to do that. But, we certainly will investigate that option when the construction's to start.
If you have to come and use a barge, will you be removing the particular docks in order to bring the barge close to that banking?
It really depends upon the size of the vessel or the barge that needs to get in there. Is about 25 feet in width between the face of the bulkhead and the end of the finger piers. So, if it's the size of the barge that Mr. Bennett used to build his dock, then we would definitely be removing the...
That one wouldn't go into the bridge, so.
That won't be a good point. But, those are things that we have to look at. As far as the sand between it, we're investigating our Chapter 91 license and previous work that was done. There had been some maintenance dredging there done at one point in time. And if we have the opportunity to do some dredging, we'd like to do that and use the dredge spoils for the fill behind the wall to avoid exporting or importing any fill from an outside source.
Is there enough water at low tide that a barge would not be grounded? So we don't have to say you can only do the work several hours between low tide before
As we get in toward the corner of where the bulkhead turns to toward the parking lot, that little corner, that it is a little skinny water in that area, so.
Could very well be that if you have to move your barge into deeper water at low tide so you don't ground it.
Exactly.
Okay. I noticed that.
Just a quick question on a point that was just made. In terms of dredging, you're not really proposing dredging under this application. Would you want to continue and modify the plan in case you did want to do that? Because otherwise, you're going to have to come back in and refile.
No, I think that you don't have a problem continuing while we check that out, do you?
No, there's no hurry in this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
So
you do have a lot of sand that is built up under the bridge because of that storm drain that
Well, he's
flowed
not talking about under the bridge. He's talking about
Right.
in the nature of
The
where
edge of
this
the
thing
wall.
is.
from the wall.
Well, that's,
Yeah.
that's the end of it, though, Dave.
Yeah.
That's down the end, that's been
Right.
affected, but I don't think that's really a negative. There's,
But it's approaching to your gas dock
yep.
with all that sand being built up from that stormwater runoff.
But we need to really look at our Chapter 91 licenses and say, as you might recall, the Point Independent Yacht Club, that we did the bulkhead replacement or repair on that. They had a provision for dredging, and as long as that maintenance dredging is, we're able to capitalize on that, I think that we would like to come back and discuss that with you. If it's not there, I think we have to sit and revisit how we'd like to handle that.
But even if it's not there and you want to do it, why not modify the plan, get it approved, and then you can apply for a Chapter 91 license to do it, if that's what
Yeah,
you
I
want
mean,
to do.
that's the first step is through
Right.
conservation, so it's a good point, and
Yeah,
we'll probably take you up on that suggestion.
all
If
right.
not, then you bring in sand you buy sand and put it in between the bulkhead and the
Exactly.
pile and the sheets. Any questions on the board?
I'm just curious, just for information, those sheets are 30 feet tall?
Yes.
So you just drive them to refusal, or you just drive this
We have 18 feet or refusal on the,
18 feet or refusal?
yeah,
Okay.
on the depth, and then our tiebacks or our helical anchors attached to the whale, I think we show them as, I want to look at that, we may want to add a few more to the design, but yeah, it'll have to be driven with a vibratory hammer to put those in place.
Rob, any questions?
Yeah, you just actually, it's just because I don't know what it is. You had mentioned a clean sanded void, and Bill had mentioned filling the void with what they dredge out. Are they the same thing? Are they considered the same
Well,
thing
they
for
could
this
be,
use?
yeah. If what's being dredged is clean sand, then you could use it, yeah.
Yeah, it's sand that came off of Onset Beach and came around the corner underneath the bridge, so it's white.
Okay.
Clear.
It's
not
beautiful
muddy.
sand.
It's good sand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, other questions?
No. Yeah.
Anybody, audience, like to speak for or against this project? We are going to continue until, for December 4th, for the discussion of maybe the possibility of dredging, correct?
Yes.
All right, I need a motion to continue. I have a motion, I heard a
Second.
motion to continue, I have a second, we're going to do until December 4th.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Notice of public
Thank you.
Notice of public hearing. Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6. Public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass., on Wednesday, November 20th, 2019, at 7:15 p.m. on the notice of intent for Patricia Wild, care of Able Engineering, Inc., 291 Long Highway, Little Compton, Rhode Island, 0238, to construct an addition located on Assessors Map 33, Lot 6, and Map 34, Lot 7B, 71 Towie Road, Wareham, Mass.
Thank you. Please come forward and identify yourselves. Patricia Wild.
Donald Maderas, professional land surveyor and civil engineer with Able Engineering, Little Compton, Rhode Island.
Thank you. Mr. Bichette will read to the project. Oh, here comes the green cards.
Thank you. So the project site is at 71 Tohee Road, and the project involves the construction of an addition in the buffer zone to a coastal bank at the site. A 15 by 20-foot addition is proposed, approximately 67 feet to the top of the coastal bank. The work area is existing yard area, and there is no significant grade changes proposed as part of the work. An erosion control barrier would be installed between the work area and the coastal bank as shown on the plan. We did receive a DEP file number for this project. I had no issues with the project, so I would recommend the approval of the project with an order of conditions with the standard conditions.
Is there anything like to add to that comment, those comments?
We have some pictures for you, if you want to look at them.
Thank you.
Three pictures. The first picture is from the edge of the wetland associated with the salt marsh, which is at the toe of the lawn, and that's looking northerly up towards the addition. The second picture is up northeast of the house, looking down past the addition, down towards the backyard lawn, down to the salt marsh. And then the third picture is at the back or south end of the house, again, looking down the lawn, southerly towards the salt marsh, just to give you some perspective.
Thank you. Any questions? Rob?
None.
Questions? Give them a chance to look at the pictures in case they have any questions. Is there anybody here that'd like to speak for or against this project? I'm seeing none.
Motion to close?
I have a motion to close the hearing. I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion to grant with standard conditions. There wasn't anything else, was there?
Yes, I had a motion, standard conditions.
Second?
That is,
Okay,
what did,
no.
oh, I heard it, I heard a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained?
Thank
Done
you.
it. Before you start the work, see Mr. Bichette for the paperwork.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Done.
Sort of done.
Certificate.
Wow, we got
7 people left and 1 certificate of compliance.
5 done. Yep. Yep. You want to do that first? Right? Okay, Rita Earl, want to come up and we can talk about Old Town? Old Woods Road? I'll get it right. Did everybody get a chance to go down there?
Well, I went by and it started to pour just as I got there, so I didn't get out.
Yeah, listen, I walked out in the rain and yes, and I think it rained on you too, didn't it?
I was on
Yes.
a lunch
Yeah.
break. I wasn't going back wet.
That's just the way it is. Oh, I'll get her to Patty. All right. Dave, you're up.
Okay, so this issue has to do with some work that took place at 14 Old Woods Road. We had discussed this at the last meeting, between this and another site that the Earls own at 93 Glen Charlie Road, where there was a dock there that we discussed that wasn't permitted. So this is their other property at 14 Old Woods Road, where some vegetation had been removed down by the edge of the pond to enhance a small beach area. And there were also some cinder blocks placed in the water in an effort to sort of contain that sand area. So at the last meeting, members who hadn't gotten a chance to look at that were going to go out to see and therefore could discuss it today, which is why we're here. So it's my recommendation that there should be some restoration plantings done down in that corner. The cinder blocks should be taken out of the water. I think pretty much that would resolve the issue, as far as I'm concerned.
What type of plantings were you considering?
Something similar to what's down there. There's some high bush blueberry bushes there. There's some sweet pepper bush, some things of that nature. There's some
Would it take over the whole
viburnum.
site that's sand, or a portion of the corner by the property line?
Just, I'd say a corner, not the whole area. So, yeah, we'd have to kind of look at that to see how it matches up to the plan. But there was an area there already, but not as big as what it currently is now.
Would you like to add anything?
No, I think that's about it.
Any questions on the board?
None.
Nope.
Did you want to discuss the dock that hasn't been removed yet?
I did speak to the other owner of the property that co-owns it with the Earls, and he is in the process of removing it. He's gotten a section of it out already, but last time I spoke to him, he hadn't been able to complete that. But he is working on it. You know, with the weather and everything, he just didn't have a chance to complete it. But he is aware of it and is getting it taken care of.
So, Dave, is it possible you can meet Rita and talk about the corner to be, and how many plants and where they might go, so you can meet with Dave and talk about the plantings? It will probably be done in the spring.
Right. At this point, I don't think
Too
it's...
late in the winter. I wouldn't plant them this late into the season.
Right.
Yeah, hard to find anyway.
Hard to find, it's true. It's not fair to put them in and have them try to survive
Yeah,
the winter.
right.
Yeah, so, anything else? Is that?
See if there's any others.
Is there anybody here who would like to speak on this project? I'm seeing none, so I thank you for coming in.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be in touch.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to ask, okay, we're going to talk about 13 Candle Paper Lane. Is that, come on down. Please, can we have your name for the record?
Hi, my name is
Yeah,
Susan Campina Beck,
okay.
and this is my daughter Jada, who talked with one of you.
Okay, Mr. Fischett.
Yeah, so the reason the Becks are here is they're behind the house that they own. There is riverfront area and wetlands, and there was some work back there that involved some alteration of vegetation and so forth within the riverfront area. So I met with Jada down there, and we kind of did the tour, and I explained that there was a certain limit of work that shouldn't have been gone beyond, and that there would need to be some materials removed from the area that had sort of been placed in there, and some plantings that should be put back within the riverfront area.
What was placed in the riverfront area?
They just had some piles of wood from when a tree had come down that they
Okay.
cut up. Nothing too significant, but just stuff that really shouldn't have been there. There was some metal of some sort from a
That's
framed canopy thing.
Okay.
Just
Because
things
they
of that
could float
nature.
away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they wouldn't float away where they were, but it was
You
just,
don't want it that close to the river.
yeah.
Okay. Was there clearing done?
There was some vegetation that's been removed, and we discussed that as well, that really shouldn't be something that can continue, and there would be some plantings that should go back in there. Again, some shrubs and maybe a couple of red maple trees, something like that.
Do you have any questions or
I
comments?
do. I wasn't there at the meeting, so Jada informed me of some things, so I'm a little bit unclear. When I purchased the property 4 years ago, that area was cleared. We haven't removed any vegetation within 30 feet of the riverbank, so I just wanted more clarification on what area you're referring to.
Yeah, so on the site plan for the property, there's a 200-foot line that comes out from the river, and anything within that really shouldn't be cleared or altered. Now, I don't know what it was like when you bought it. The guy who owned it before you could have created a violation which you bought. So that's how these things go sometimes. If we don't discover it or notice it, or it doesn't get reported, and the next owner buys it, then the next owner buys the problem. So that could be the case in your situation, I don't know. All I'm saying is, now that I've seen it, it's not the way it was when the property was initially developed, and there's work that is in an area that shouldn't have happened. So that's what it boils down to.
And, go ahead.
When you speak of planting, I know we talked about maples, is that something that we can do on our own, or do you need to plant them? Is it something that we need, like I go to you and say, I want to plant these 2 maples in this space, or do you have to plant them?
No, it's something that you folks can do, yeah. It's not something I need to do. I don't want to go out there and do it.
I do want to add that I'm a tree hugger. So I was a little bit concerned. It was brought to my attention today. I didn't get notification. If it weren't for the conversation that you had with my daughter, because she was concerned with the bittersweet back there, I didn't receive any registered mail, or I didn't receive anything. And I am preserving trees back there. I have, Jada pointed out to the maple I'm trying to save. I haven't taken any plants down. And so I wanted to represent myself.
Sure.
I protect the property back there. They actually canoe. There are people who kayak and canoe, and in that space you see, for years, they come and they dock there. Mm-hmm. And that's something that they said has been going on since the Westgate Conservation, and I've asked them not to do that. So I know that I need to post private property. So I'm just concerned that you would think that I remove vegetation. And I understand I may have inherited property, but this is my first time hearing of it tonight.
Yeah. I actually did send a certified letter to you. Whether or not you got it or not is another story, but I did actually send a formal letter out.
Do you have that green card?
I don't have it with me, but...
Yeah, I never received it.
Yeah.
And I'm very conscientious. I've been a teacher for 30-something years. I'm a school principal, so I just wanted to represent that. I do not take vegetation down, and I'll be willing to do whatever, and I do want to preserve the land, and I wanted to state that publicly.
Okay, no, that's great. And sometimes we send out notices, and some people refuse to pick them up. Others just don't get it because it, got lost in the mail or whatever the case may be. But I can show you a copy of the letter that was sent out and when it was dated, just so you have it for the record. But yeah, as far as the issue goes, again, I wasn't saying that you were the one that actually went out and did the work, but it is your property, and so therefore we have to address it. And as long as we work together to get it straightened out, then there'll be no...
And I would appreciate a visit so you and I could look at it, because Jada wasn't quite able to articulate. And I would appreciate, so that I could be a better steward of my property, that if you and I could talk and look at my property.
Oh, yeah. No,
that
definitely.
would be great.
Jada made it sound like she was going to handle the situation, so that's why we didn't we didn't talk directly. So that's how it came to be.
She's been duly talked to.
Okay.
I'll be doing the planting.
Okay.
There you go.
Any questions?
No.
Anybody in the audience? I guess you and Dave can talk.
Absolutely.
About
well, I'd like to follow
what
up.
we can put back there, and because the riverfront's 200 foot, but a wetland is 30 feet along bordering vegetated coastal banks, so that's why it's slightly different for a river bank than a...
Right, and I want to make sure that I respect that, so I'd like Dave to point that out to me.
Yes, okay,
Yes,
so
absolutely.
you and Dave can get together as appropriate time for a meeting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, on the original plan that I had when I met Jada, it showed the 200-foot line being basically right at where that old foundation was.
Yes, my fire.
And so anything from there back towards the river should remain sort of natural as it is, sort of thing.
What we did do during the huge storm we had 2 pine trees that popped, that broke, and it popped it actually jumped. We watched it and hit another pine tree. It was about an 80-year-old tree. So what you saw was us having people trying to cut that up and disperse it and keep it in the natural so that we could have our bugs and to stay back there. So that's what you saw was that natural preservation.
Okay.
I thought we did the right thing.
Sure.
But we didn't want it to be, we couldn't have it where it was blocking the growth of, if you can see, I'm trying to save that maple tree, so it was blocking the growth of them, and the new pine trees it was blocking. So what we did is we cut it up, and we dispersed it around, and we kept all the live, I saved bugs as well, so. We try to, so, thank you for listening.
All right, yep, thank you.
Two gentlemen in the back, what can we do for you? No, behind you. Did we miss a hearing or something?
Kind of a little bit of old business and new business.
Do you want to take this? We'll talk to them, might as well.
Okay, just see.
Can you identify yourself and
My
ask
name's
them-
Bob Newhall, retired Conservation Commissioner from Taunton for 8 years. One of the issues I have
Six,
is,
the other,
Stephen Bunker, Taunton, Massachusetts. Also live in property in Wareham. off of
okay,
Glen
and
Charlie
your
Road.
reason here?
one of the reasons I was here is because of an issue of his in-laws that came up and was about a fence being erected on their property, which was in a 100-foot buffer zone. And the decision that was made was that this is a civil matter. This gentleman put a fence up on their property, which is in violation of Wetlands Protection Act.
Let's back up for a minute. Who are we talking about
Do you have
here?
an address?
My mother-in-law, the Earls, 93 Glen Charlie Road.
Okay, yeah.
Right. And we'd like to talk about that if we could.
Oh, okay.
And also the amount of work that I witnessed being done with heavy equipment next door. I'm an equipment operator.
Yeah.
And what I saw and what the photographs, what I saw of the equipment, that the vegetation and the amount of stuff that was taken out away from that beach, I'm not happy with that.
And they have received a violation, and they've been told to replant 30 feet of that land that, the land that was cleared. And issue over the fence is totally a civil matter, and
You are correct, it is a civil matter, but it's a violation of the Wetland Protection Act because that fence was erected by the gentleman on their property, but that fence should come down the 100-foot buffer zone. He should be demanded to take it down.
well.
Because he put it up on their property, it's still a violation. It's an open
The
violation.
question is, 2 surveys were done with 2 different property lines being determined by both surveys, so I certainly don't know
Well,
what la-
I
what land-
watched that meeting here, and he did not produce you a survey line.
No, they,
The other owner did not produce it.
neither did.
Oh, yes, they did.
Oh, yes, we did. It's
Oh,
on
yes, they
file.
did. It's on file with your department right here.
He
Right,
never
so-
produced a survey.
He never produced a
Mrs.
survey.
Earl's survey is on file. A
And it's
stamp-
on attached to her deed.
Right. So again, the property line issue is what you're
No,
concerned with.
my issue is whether it was on Earl's property or the next door neighbor's property, that fence was put up within the 100-foot buffer zone. Whether it's on, that fence should come down. After I watched last week, you made a guy take a dock out. That dock has been there probably since the 1940s.
Then why has it
And-
not been, why has it not been identified by the town's assessor's records?
Is every dock on that pond identified?
Everyone I've looked at, I can find it on an
I don't know
assessor's
that.
database.
Well, I went out there and found quite a few of them in the last week or so that have concrete blocks underneath them, which is a violation of the
Well,
Wetlands
that's
Protection
not
Act.
necessarily a violation.
And I also observed that there was stormwater coming off the street into those ponds. And there's not one sign that says no salt to be used in this area.
No, there may not be.
And I also understand that some of that water is used for agriculture, is using for bogs.
Right, that stormwater's been going in there since the road was built.
Well, I think that's an issue, and I think that's a very big issue that needs to be addressed.
Well, that's a separate matter. If we can't address that right here now, that's something the town would have to address.
These are
But
some
this
of the things that
stormwater-
I'm trying to bring to your attention that I think are
Right,
very
we're aware of
important
it.
and need to be taken care of.
This is something that we're aware of.
We're talking about things like used needles that we found
Mm-hmm.
on the beaches down there.
Okay,
No, but what I'm getting at,
so the
when
question is, what I'm hearing right now is the fence was in a violation.
Right, so the other thing too is,
Because of the wetlands.
it's not against the law to do any work within 100 feet of a wetland. You know that, right?
I know that.
So
What he's done is not right.
Right, no,
It's right down to the
that's
beach.
why we've addressed it.
Mhm.
But So to say the whole fence has to be taken out because it's within the 100-foot is not a realistic, take as far as what's permittable within the 100-foot area.
And the other thing that I noticed in the last meetings that I reviewed, he said he bought in soils. I'd like to know what kind of soils he bought in. Is there any proof that these weren't contaminated soils that he bought in? Is there any documentation of what soils were put down there? Is there a documentation or report where he got the soils from?
Can I ask you a question
Topsoils?
about some of
Yeah,
this?
sure.
We had a public hearing on this.
Mhm.
Why was none of this brought up during the public hearing? We can't
Because-
really address it now. We've already closed the public hearing. So, you knew we had a public hearing. Why didn't you?
I saw the public hearing after it was put on video, after it was put on record.
Well, you knew it was a public hearing.
I did know that, but I did know it was a public hearing.
Right, so
I was also waiting to see minutes of the meeting. No minutes have been produced as of any of these meetings.
Some of them may not have been produced, but
No,
there's a video
there's-
of it. So you can watch it on TV and see exactly what went on.
Well, as
So-
far as,
I just feel there's some big issues that need to be addressed on the properties, both ponds. And again, where it's used for agricultural uses and bases, I'm certified federal and state, 35 courses in both. I'm very well rehearsed on what I know, and I know that there's agricultural issues, and I know what stormwater does to water that's being used for people with agriculture. You can get yourself in a lot of trouble.
Stormwater is an issue all over this town, we know that.
Mhm.
The public hearing it was September 18th, 2019. That was when we had our first hearing on this particular site. But
well, there's also an issue of a septic system, so I didn't know if this was still ongoing or if it's under.
septic system is up to the Board of Health.
Right, but what I wanted to do was, my mother-in-law did not receive any type of work or a type of engineer's plan as to what was going to be done around 93 Glen Charlie Road. Mr. Neves had spoken, and he said that he also discharged his hot tub into the pond, okay?
Which is why we told him he can't have the hot tub there and it can't be discharged.
But this work was, what I was under the impression was that work was supposed to be under his supervision. All this work. Since then, there's been soils brought in, there's been talks about drainage, there's been talks about the hot tub.
Oh, you're telling me he drained the hot tub into the pond?
He said it right when you were here.
Right in your record.
No, he wasn't supposed to.
He did.
It's right in your record. He said he did it.
It's right. Check your video.
When
Check
we
your
were
video.
here, the hot tub hadn't been told, he hadn't been
Okay,
told
check
to
your video,
remove the
because he
hot
did,
tub.
he did
He
say.
did. He said it it's right on video. That's why there's
Okay.
Well, as far as the septic system, he is going to be putting a septic system in there. There's an engineered plan that's currently being designed, so he does have to do that. So that will happen once the Board of Health approves the septic design. So that is something that's still coming forward.
Another concern I have about that, if, I saw on his deed that when he purchased the property, said that the septic Title V failed, and it was not, it should have been, I shouldn't have not even had an occupancy permit to live in it.
That's another issue for another board.
I understand that, ma'am,
But there's
but it's
not
the
much we can-
responsibility of that waterways and that water is your responsibility to make sure there's
And
no
that's- And
contaminants.
now that it's been discovered, we didn't know about it until this all came up. Now that it's been discovered, we have addressed it. That's why he's putting a septic system in, because we've addressed it.
And I hope I hope the rest of the boards continue to say, okay, he's in violation, he's not getting an occupancy permit till he go back in that home until it's fixed.
Well, the Concom doesn't have any jurisdiction over whether
But the Board of
somebody
Health
gets
does.
right. And so that's their call to make. If they don't want to give him occupancy, they can do that.
I'm working for MAC for many years myself, that one of the most important things we did, we made a point of, in Taunton, Massachusetts, and also in a lot of other towns have done this, in cities, that everything comes to conservation first before anybody's allowed to get a permit for anything. I don't know if you guys have that in your bylaws, but I think it's a great thing to put in your bylaws, because something like this wouldn't get overlooked, because you're dealing with wetlands, you're dealing with properties, you're dealing with bodies of water that's being used for different things, and also can be contaminated very easy by a septic system or stormwater. You guys know that. I'm not picking on what you're doing, and I'm thinking it's something for the future that needs to be addressed. And I think it's very important that you've got two beautiful ponds. It's a
Right.
beautiful area, and it's a nice, and it looks like people put a lot of work into the homes there. You see a lot of work being done. I seen some from years and coming up just that way, and it's very nice to see what's going on. But again, we made it mandatory in Taunton, Massachusetts, and a lot of towns and cities are doing it, that before anything is done, it comes to conservation first.
Well, thank you.
Well, nothing was proposed to be done, so that's where it
Well,
wouldn't come before
what it
us.
was, sir, because it was on his deed when he bought it, bought as is, Title V not to be passed, not to have an occupancy permit.
And there's nothing, we do not see the deed, we do not know why he
How would
got
we
it.
know about that?
How he got an occupancy that we don't know.
That's why if it comes to you first, you can look at that, because you guys are educated in
Even if he
that. They're
came to
not.
us first, we still would not have access to the deed.
You would have access to,
We would not, we've never asked for a deed for anybody who's
Ma'am, I
come
was a
before us
vice chairman
for
for
a
many
hearing.
years. I was a vice chairman, I worked for.
But to
for
me,
that,
that's
and
the
I
Board of
did.
Health.
I always checked everything that come in front of me, because you always, there's people that try to sneak stuff through. There's people who do this. We know this, and you've known it. You've seen it through your years. You've seen stuff that you said didn't even get a permit for a dock. It happens. People do this because they're not educated. And you are the education. You are the direction that people listen to. And it's very, very important that that happens.
Oh, yeah, there's stuff that goes on all the time that
I know it's
doesn't get
I've
permitted.
done the job for many years. I know how hard
Right.
it is to deal with departments. I understand that.
Yeah.
But that's why we put that clause in with MAC. And we put it with MAC, and MAC backed us up. And we have it, they have it in Easton, they have it in Taunton, they have it in a lot of areas that you have to come to conservation first. And everything has to be above board. So yes, you may have to go back and look at a deed. Yes, you may have to. Or you may have to call that department head. Say, okay, Board of Health, what is the issue? You have any issues in that property before we get anything go forward? Because 3 years he's had that, we don't even know if that's been drained into that pond. You don't know that,
Right.
because he covered it up with blacktop.
Thank you for your comments.
And I'm not, I just think it's an educational tool you have, and everybody needs to utilize it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your
Yeah.
time.
You want to do the certification of compliance?
No, I want to continue that
Okay.
because that still hasn't been addressed.
That's the banking down by Green Gate Lane? Is that down your way?
Green Gate
Yes.
Lane is, oh, this is, now what is this compliance? This is with,
That's for the addition down the
Yeah,
77
Tom.
Green Gate Lane,
yeah,
Jevon.
yeah.
Okay, so
Devon.
continued.
Yeah.
Folks, it's 8:30. Do you want to hold off anything else on this agenda until another meeting? I'm fine with discussing fines of violations at another meeting because it's running late.
Motion to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained. We're done.
Good
Thank you,
night.
Mr. White, 8:29.